All right. So, number 7. Can somebody read number 7 for me, please, and thank you? Negative 10x. Okay. So, if you didn't take notes yesterday, this is what we're using, right? Not yet. It'll be up there tonight. So this is what we're using, right? So this is exactly what's in your book. This is what's going to be on your formula sheet that I'm going to give you. And what we need to do is we need to match it up, right? The directions for that say graph it, right? And find all of this stuff about it. All right. So this is what we're using, right? So based off of the problem, right, you start off by identifying what's squared. So what piece is squared up here? The y squared, right? And in order to use our formulas, we need to isolate the squared, right? So, is my square piece isolated? Yeah. So the generic form that I'm using is y squared equals 4px. Everybody okay with that? Yes, no, maybe? All right. So now, what's the value that I have to find? P. So, how do I set this up? So, negative 10 has to be equal to 4p. Is everybody okay with that, right? Because the negative 10 is the number in front of x on the left-hand equation, and then on the right-hand equation, the 4p is what's in front of x, being all multiplied together. So that means that 4p has to be the same as the coefficient on x. Everybody good? Yes, no, maybe? All right, so how do I find p? So you get p equals negative 5 over 2. All right. So when it comes to graphing, you have to find the focus, which is a point. You have to find the directrix. You need to find the axis of symmetry. And remember, a directrix and the axis of symmetry are going to be perpendicular to each other. And then the last thing that you're going to need is a table. And what are the 5 values we always use? Okay. So first things first, when it's y squared, right? How do you find the focus? What are the coordinates of the focus? P0 or 0p? P0, right? So what's my p value? So I get negative 5 over 2, 0. The directrix, right, is that x equals or y equals? X equals, and again, it's this time it's x equals your negative p, right? So what's the opposite of negative 5 over 2? Positive 5 over 2. Okay, axis of symmetry is going to be what? Y equals 0 because this has vertical symmetry, right? As in the vertical axis, or sorry, the horizontal axis is what's going to create the symmetry. So I apologize for that. It has horizontal symmetry. Everybody good so far? All right, so now plug in this number for your x and find y, right? So what's negative 10 times negative 2? Positive 20, and then to get y by itself, we have to square root it, right? So what's the square root of 20? I need that as a decimal, please, because I don't know the square root of 5 off the top of my head. So just type it in and tell me what you get out for decimal places. Right? Plug in a negative 2, we get positive 20. Square root of 20 is? Or does it just stop? So 2, 1. Everybody okay with that? All right, plug in a negative 1. What's negative 10 times negative 1? Positive 10. What's the square root of 10? 3.1622. All right, plug in a 0. What's negative 10 times 0? What's the square root of 0? Okay, plug in a 1. What's negative 10 times 1? Square root of negative 10? Does not exist, right? Can we square root a negative number? No. Plug in a 2. What's negative 10 times 2? Negative 20, so the square root of that does not exist. Everybody okay to this point? Yes, no, maybe? Any questions? Because again, it's like all of our graphs, right? The actual graph itself is worth 3 points. This is worth 1, 2.5, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? So, again, this page is the one that means the most. Everybody all right with that? All right, so now we actually graph everything. Okay. So, the first thing that I want to graph is my focus. So, what were the coordinates for my focus? -5/2, so that's -2.5, right? 1, 2.5. Everybody okay with that? All right, next thing that I want to graph is my directrix. Is that going to be a solid line or a dashed line? Directrix are solid. Okay, the axis of symmetry is going to be your dashed line. Okay? So, what are the coordinates for your directrix? What was the equation? Okay, x equals 5/2, so x equals positive 5/2, right? No, yeah, something weird just happened. There we go. Yeah, me too. I saw it start and I'm like, what? The Matrix? I'm waiting for a phone to just show up. Bling! Quick, they're coming for you. Go to the office at the end of the hall. All right. So, everybody okay with the directrix being solid, right? Axis of symmetry, solid or dashed? It's dashed. And what was the equation for the axis of symmetry? Y equals 0. Okay, so is everybody okay with how to start by putting in everything except the table, right? All right, so now you plug in your points, right? When x equaled 0, we got 0, 0, right? Okay, when x equaled 1, what did I get? When x equals 1, what did I get? Positive 1. I got does not exist. What about 2? Does not exist. Okay, and that's what we expect. Like, the graph will never go toward the directrix. Okay, you got a parabola. The directrix is always outside the graph. Okay, the focus is the one that's inside the curve. So, okay, if you've got a convex curve, the focus is the point that's going to be contained within the curve. Everybody okay with that? Yeah? All right. So, at -1, what did we get? Plus or minus 3.16 something. So, there's positive, 2, 3, negative. Right? What about at 2? What did we get when x equaled 2? Okay, 4.47 plus 3, 1, 2, 3, 4.67 negative. Everybody all right with that? And then all you do is connect the dots. And just make sure that it's rounded like a parabola is supposed to be. Ish. I got a little squirrely there. Let's try that one again. There we go. That looks better, right? And then you do want to label your points. So this is your focus. Focus. Axis of symmetry. Directrix. And then there you go. All right. Everybody okay with that? Yes, no, maybe? So it's got a lot of little stuff going on through it, but are there any questions as to how we found that stuff or how we use it to graph? So again, do you see why I tell you Chapter 9 is all formulas, right? You just look at what you have, find P, plug it in, plot the points, you're done. Okay? Any major questions? All right. Then we're moving on. Number 10. As Mama G used to say, what does number 10 say? Okay. This time, which piece is squared? X or Y? X, right? Is it isolated? Okay, so I know that 4P has to be equal to -36. Everybody okay with that? Yes or no? Right? If you don't know where I'm getting that, go back in your book a page or two until you find the formulas. Everybody good? So how do I get P by itself? So what's P equal to? -9, right? So this time, with X being squared, we use the X row right here. Right? So I know that my focus is at 0P, my directrix is at Y equals a -P, and my vertical, or my axis of symmetry is vertical, which means I just use X equals 0. So let me come back over here, and my focus is going to be at 0, comma P. My directrix is, is going to be y equals positive 9, right? Because it's opposite of your P. You guys okay over there? Axis of symmetry is going to be x equals 0. Everybody okay with that? Yeah? And these shouldn't take that long. These do get going pretty good. Alright. Plug this in, right? This is my x. So, real quick, how would I get y by itself up here? Okay, so y equals x squared over negative 36, right? Yeah, I don't know what that is. My computer's like, I'm over here. Yeah. Special Fred, the computer. Alright. So we're going to be plugging in. Oh, I'm going to have to get that one out. Alright, so we're going to be plugging in for x, right? So what's negative 2 squared? Positive 4. 4 divided by negative 36 is negative 1 over 9, which should equal 0.11, I think. Can you double check that for me, please? I got y by itself. So I just divided both sides by negative 36 to get y by itself, so I can just plug in my x's without having to do work on every single problem. Alright. Is that right for negative 2? Alright, negative 1, what's negative 1 squared? 1, so I get negative 1 over 36. And what is that as a decimal, please? Oops, I forgot the negative. Negative 0 point what? Oh, whoops. 0? 278, right? Because it's a 7 past the 7. Yeah. Alright, plug in a 0. What's 0 squared? What's 0 divided by negative 36? Okay, plug in a 1. 1 squared is 1, right? Divided by negative 36 is going to be negative 0.0278. Plug in a 2, you get 4 divided by negative 36 is negative 1/9, or negative 0.1111. So it seems I'm having a hard time of reading the negative because I missed it. Let me just rewrite it. So is everybody okay with how we're getting these values? Yes, no, maybe. Any questions getting to this point? Yes, no, maybe. Anything at all kicking, or are we good? Alright, then let me get set up to graph. Okay, so are my values really big here? No, but my focus is pretty big, right? So I'm going to try counting by 0.5s and see if I have enough room, because I need 18 in each direction. Nope. Looks like I'm counting by ones. Alright. So what's your directrix? You can only use those with scatter plots. So what was your directrix? Y equals 9, right? So, is it going to be a solid or a dashed line? Solid. So I go up to 9. Alright, go up to 9. Here's your directrix. Everybody all right? Alright, where's the focus? Zero, negative 9, right? Everybody good? What was the axis of symmetry? X equals 0. So there you go. And I'm going to label everything as I go. So this is the directrix. Axis of symmetry. And focus. Alright. And then just plot your points, right? So at 0, where am I? Okay, at 1, where was I? So really close to 0, right? And at 2, where was I? Negative 0.1. So this is going to be super flat, right? Which makes sense because the focus is really far away from the vertex. Right, so the further away from your focus, the further away your focus is, the wider your satellite dish will be. Okay? So this is going to come out like this. Okay. Everybody good? So this graph is going to be kind of hard to draw. Just do your best. All right? Because, again, what I'm focusing on is that you have all of the stuff labeled. All right? Everybody good? Yeah? Anything else on number 10? Last call. Are these starting to make some sense? No sense? Where are we at? You guys are awfully quiet. Are we good and you guys are just kind of taking it in? Or, like, you feel like you can duplicate it on your own or what? Okay. So, what's 14 say? Okay. So again, x squared is x by itself? Kind of, right? What's over with the x squared that shouldn't be? The negative, so how do I get rid of a negative? Divide or multiply by a negative, right? So I get, whoops. So what's a negative times a negative? So I get x squared equals a negative 48y. Okay, this time I'm not going to graph it. I'm just going to find the key pieces, okay? So I need the focus, I need the directrix, I need the axis of symmetry, and then I'm going to need my XY chart. Alright, so what's the first thing that I need to find? Huh? In order to find the focus of the directrix, what do I need? I need what value? Huh? Okay, I need the P, right? So how do I find P? Right, so 4P has got to be equal to the negative 48, right? Everybody okay with where that's coming from, yes or no? Alright, so now I divide both sides by 4, and what's my P? Huh? Negative 12. So your focus, right? When it's x squared, is your focus at 0P or P0? 0P. So you get 0, negative 12. Your directrix is going to be at y equals the opposite of P, so we get positive 12. And your axis of symmetry here is vertical, which really just means x equals 0. Everybody all right with that? Yes or no? And remember, your directrix and your axis of symmetry have to be perpendicular to each other. So if your directrix is a y equals, then your axis of symmetry has to be an x equals, right? They'll never have the same variable. Okay? Because they're perpendicular. So if this is an x here, this has to be a y. If this is a y, this has to be an x. Everybody good? So plug in a 0, right? And again, I'm going to solve for y up here. So y equals negative x squared over 48. Is everybody okay with where that's coming from? Yes or no? So all I'm doing is getting y by itself, so that way I can just plug in for x and go like I've always done for the last year and a half, right? So what's negative 2 squared? Positive 4. Negative of that, so I get negative 4, right? Negative 4 divided by 48 is negative 1 over 12. And I'll leave you to find the decimal for that. Negative 1 squared is 1, so I get negative 1 over 48. 0 is a 0. Negative 1 over 48 and negative 1 over 12. So you should be able to knock those out. And then everybody okay with graphing from there? So again, are these making some sense, right? It's just going back to those formulas, right? So you pick which formula you use, find P, do exactly what it says, plug it in, plot your points, you're done. All right, so yeah, and that's why for every quiz and test I give you a formula sheet, so it's got all that on it. Is because without it, you're basically up the creek without a paddle. But if you have it, it's really simple. You just do exactly what it says. And that's how most of this chapter is built. Okay? So the main thing is that you're comfortable enough using all of the formulas to where you can actually find the pieces necessary and use it. Alright? So don't worry about memorizing the formula, just make sure you're okay with using the formula. Okay, so number 26, that one's on the list. So what's 26 say? So what's going on for this one? Okay, and what do they tell you this is, though? Okay, so they're giving you a focus, and they're giving you a vertex, right? Okay. So what was the focus they gave you? Okay, and what about the vertex? 0, 0. All right. This is there mainly from when we get into circles and ellipses and hyperbolas and all that stuff. For parabolas, for the most part, we're going to be dealing with just 0, 0. So if you notice, all of the ones I graphed, right, we were always at 0, 0. So the vertex doesn't really matter too much. This matters a lot. Okay, so for this focus, is this focus set up as P0 or 0P? P0, right? Number, comma, 0. So go back to your chart. Okay, so if it's P0, it's going to be this format, right? So we know it's y squared equals 4px. So you come back over here. So we know that our standard form has got to look something like that, right? Everybody good? Yes? No? Maybe? All right, so now what's my p-value, though? 2. So y squared equals 4 times 2x. So y squared equals 8x. And you're done. That's all they want. It is. As long as you have your formulas. Everybody good? Yes? No? Maybe? So every section is you're going to be having to do this kind of analyzation where they give you either a picture or a characteristic and they want you to find the other stuff. Okay? Everybody good? Yeah? No? I don't know? All right. So that's 26 and 42. And for this, what do they say this is? This is the what? Okay, so we've got the directrix of y equals 12. We have a vertex of 0, 0. Okay, why do they keep giving you this? These two forms, these two equations only work when the vertex is 0, 0. Okay, how many of the things that we graphed last year that were parabolas had a vertex of 0, 0? Very few of them, right? It was always moving. That's what the h and k were all about. These don't work if we're anywhere other than 0, 0 with a vertex. Okay, so for this entire section, you should always have 0, 0 showing up as your vertex. Okay, so for us, was the directrix an x equals or a y equals? It was y equals. So which equation am I using, top or bottom? Okay, so I've got x squared equals 4py as my general layout. So I need to find my p and plug it in. So what's my p here? So what's the format for a directrix for when it's x squared equals? What did it say? Y equals what? What's the general form for a directrix for this standard form? Y equals negative p, right? So, if y equals negative p is my directrix here, right? How big is my p? Close, not 12, but negative 12. Basically, when they give you a directrix, the p-value flips its sign, right? Because if you notice here, y equals negative p, x equals negative p, right? But in our equation, we have positive p's. So we'll just flip the sign and then run with it. All right, so finish this up. X squared equals what? Negative 48y. Everybody okay? Yeah, that's it. So it's just all about matching up stuff, right? So it's taking what they give you, finding out that p-value, and then using it to find the entire equation. So this entire section, you have to make sure that you, A, know how to use the formulas, and B, and more in particular, be able to find p regardless of whether it's an x squared or a y squared. Okay? Once you have the p-value, you just plug it in and you're done. Everybody good? All right. So this is your homework.